Hey, my name's Dylan and welcome to my Run Lab. Today we're talking about none other than the Saucony Endorphin Pro 2. Now, I know what you're thinking, I'm a bit late to the party talking about this shoe. There's already talk about version 3 on its way next year, but let's put that aside for now because I think we can have some interesting conversations around this shoe. Whenever we talk about a carbon-plated super shoe, the Vaporfly always finds its way into conversation as it's the gold standard comparison. These two shoes do contrast one another to an extent. Nike use a ultra soft Zoom X cushioning system while Saucony uses a more firm Power Run PB cushioning. What's interesting is that both these midsole foams are developed by the same company, Arkema. I mention this for two reasons. Firstly, to show you how versatile a material such as PB can be. On one shoe it can be a soft low density foam, while on another a firmer foam and in a granular or pelleted form. The second reason I mention this is to highlight that it's quite normal for brands to outsource or acquire tech from other companies. The classic example of this is Boost cushioning, which Adidas acquired from a German chemical company called BASF. In fact, if you're wearing one of the more high-end models of a Brooks, Asics, Hoka, Mizuno, New Balance model, the chances are you have an insole that is developed by the same company, Ortholite. But back to our Endorphin Pro 2 over here. What I like and find functional about its design is that you get good feedback from the ground while running. It's well cushioned and protective, but because it uses a slightly firmer PB foam, you're getting a good proprioceptive feedback while running. A shoe like this is certainly softer and springy, but I personally find that I'm not getting that same ground feedback while running. And although it can help me run faster, my perceived effort tends to increase because the shoe feels a bit too squishy, but that's my opinion. Many people do love and enjoy the sensation you're getting, but traditionally a racing shoe has been your firmer feeling shoe. In terms of the shoe's blueprint design, within the shoe is an S-shaped curved carbon plate, quite comparable to the Vaporfly, but distinguishable from the Metaspeed Sky. I speak more of this on my review of the shoe. I'll link it at the top here. In terms of the stiffness, again, comparable to the Vaporfly. Like any other racing shoe on the market at the moment, it has a very minimal design, trying to save as much weight as possible. So there's not much of a heel counter. It's a very light, minimal upper. The update from last season's model is entirely in the upper with an identical midsole and outer sole. In case you have a wide foot, version 2 does clamp down on some of the volume around the midsection of the foot, thanks to this red eyelet over here, which we don't have on version 1. On version 1 we had a standard 6 eyelet configuration, whereas on version 2 we've got 5. Also slightly thicker laces, so I find that the overall fit of the shoe is better and a nice update. They've also moved this elasticized lace keeper closer to your ankle, whereas on version 1 it was quite awkwardly positioned and quite far away from the ankle, so you can never really tuck your laces in nicely without them still dangling around, so a nice update. The Saucony Endorphin Pro 2 is one of the few carbon-plated models on the market that has a removable insole or sock liner. So this is nifty if you are an athletic user or wearer and have to slot in your pre-built insole. The standard insole that the shoe comes with is a nice quality insole. A lot of racing shoes just have a bare minimal layer which gets sewn in or glued in, but this is a quality insole. On many Saucony models there's a cool feature that a lot of runners aren't aware of, and that's a top sole layer, which is essentially a layer of cushioning below the insole but above the midsole. Most models have a layer of sorts, but not necessarily a layer of cushioning. So on a lot of your Saucony models, there's a very soft layer of cushioning that sits below this insole that just gives you that extra bit of comfort. Now we know the Endorphin Pro 2 is light, but it's not the lightest racing shoe on the market. Saucony have realized this and released a parallel version of this called the Endorphin Pro Plus, which is essentially a shoe with the same midsole and outsole as the Pro 2, except with a redesigned upper, a bare minimal upper, which has reduced the shoe's weight by approximately 17 grams. My initial impression is that 17 grams is reduced weight and is always better, but it isn't sufficient enough to create a differential between these two shoes. So I would have gone with a design that perhaps also takes off a little bit of weight from the rubber outsole, perhaps reducing the midsole by 2 millimeters in stack, and this way the two would be a little bit more noticeably different. So to wrap things up, the Endorphin Pro 2 is a simple update of last season's model. It's an amazing shoe, and this last season's model has given me over 800 kilometers of fast running while still retaining a nice stiff and energetic feel to it. It's also one of the few carbon plated shoes in the market at the moment that has a good rubber outsole coverage, which is going to ensure that the shoe doesn't wear prematurely. It's also one of the more stable racing shoes in the market, which I think is going to win quite a few runners over. It has a training sibling, the Endorphin Speed, which has the exact same midsole and outsole design, except is built with a nylon plate within the midsole, which is a bit more flexible and conducive for a wider range of paces. It also has a more developed heel for that stable run and has a more padded upper, again just to make it a better training companion. If you've been running in any Saucony shoes, let me know which shoe and what you think, and also let me know how you pronounce the brand. Is it Saucony or Saucony? We'll chat in our next video. Until then, cheers.
Stone Cold Stunner. She was a winner, started working at the diner.